What's up, my X-Crafting friends? It's been a while since I've done a video. Been really busy working on a lot of things, including my brand new book. That's right, I'm working on a Christian science fiction book. It's going to be a short novel that I'm working on, so I'll put a link to that down in the description. Another thing that I've been doing is I've started another new business to go along with the crafting business. I'll put a link to my page for that as well, so you can check out what I've been doing. That's right, I'm doing a window cleaning service. So that's what today's video is going to be about. We're about to work on lettering my truck. That being said, we're going to put a sign on the back tailgate of my truck, and we're going to see how that one turns out. And then later on, I'm coming back and I'm going to be putting signs on my doors as well. So this is what this video is. It's a lettering video. So here we go. All right, so here we go. Step one is going to be to prep the tailgate. Now, I washed the truck yesterday, but I still want to prep the tailgate a little bit more just to get any residue that might not have come off with the washing. And we're doing that. We're going to clean the area with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol using a lint-free microfiber cloth to do that. Now guys, I'm going to tell you right up ahead of time, I'm outside, my neighbors are outside, the kids are outside playing, so my dog may be barking in the background, but we're going to speed up part of this as we're working on it. Now this is my work truck. It's an older truck, so it's going to have some imperfections in it, such as, I'm not sure you can see it on camera right here, but there's a little spot right here, just a little couple of imperfections in the tailgate. But it is a work truck, and you know, it's going to be some bumps on it and things like that. And this is going to be, I'm going to be using this with my business. I'll be carrying, you know, all of my cleaning supplies, tools, and things like that on the back. So that's it. But here we go. Let's go grab the vinyl and get going with it. All right, so here we go. We have the vinyl ready to go on right here, and I've already prepped it a little bit and removed the backing paper, and then lightly replaced it. And just to protect the stickiness of this up here, I placed like some baking paper, you know, parchment paper on the back of it to cover it. And what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the parchment paper, and we're going to lightly tack this in place, get it lined up, and then go from there. Alright, so now in this part of the video, you're going to see where I'm just kind of lightly lining it up, getting it an idea of where I want it to go, and then from there, I will start tacking it in place and removing the backing really slowly. Just get an idea of how I want it to go on. And this is my vehicle, so I'm deciding exactly how I want it. And I think this is about where I want this to go. So I'm going to lightly tack that down first, make a couple of adjustments here. And this is the reason, guys, that you want to use a technique like this before you tack it. Because that's going to allow you to get it laid out. Now, I've got that laid out before I want it. I want to get this transfer paper that I'm using, I want to get it kind of lined up, get it kind of smoothed out. That way that as I start to bring off the backing paper, that this will be nice and smooth going down. And of course, I'm going to use my squeegee. I'm going to use my squeegee tool here to bring it down and get out as many bubbles as I can. Now, this will be exposed to the heat, so any small bubbles that might go on there, those will be okay. They will eventually work their way out. There's going to be possibly some very tiny bubbles going in. I'm hoping that it's going to do pretty good because the metal is cool. I've got it parked in a shade, so it hasn't been in direct sunlight. Now, if this had been out in direct sunlight, it would have been a bit more of a task to work with. So here we go. Now I'm just going to start slowly peeling back this backing paper. Get it going. Start working my way down, working slowly, using my squeegee tool, scraping tool to apply. You want to take your time with this, and after a little bit of practice, you'll see that you'll get better and better at applying this and getting it on. As you see right here, that just popped a little bit of a bubble right there, but because I don't have it fully down, I can kind of go up underneath here and work that back up just a little bit to try to work out that one little bubble right there, and then start working it back down again. And what happened was there's a little bit of an air bubble got up inside the transfer tape, but if you take your time with it, you can catch those and work those out as you go. Now, another trick that you can do when you're working on things like this, another trick is to be able to come back and take something sharp like a little needle, a sewing needle or something like that, and you can take a sewing needle and any little small bubbles, you can actually take those. See this right here. These little small numbers right here wanted to bubble up a little bit, but I can go back and fix that. As long as they are not huge bubbles, you can usually work them out by squeegeeing, and I think that's what's going to happen here. I think I'm going to be able to squeegee most of that out. Once you get past all of the letters and the numbers and all of that, the rest of it tends to go down pretty easily. The main thing is you just want to have a nice tool, scraping tool, to work this down. Take your time with it and work on getting it on your vehicle, sign, wood, whatever it is you're putting it on. Try to pull as tight as you can. Working down, pulling down as you go. And I'm also working with a slightly curved surface here. So that's giving me a little bit more of a headache. Now I can remove the backing, kind of work a little bit with this one right here. Begin to pull this a little bit tighter. Also working with a little bit of a curved surface here, so what I may have to do is come back right here and do just a little bit of work on this to get it to attach the way that I want it to attach. vinyl that I'm using has a stretch to it, so that's one of the problems that I'm running into with this one, is that stretch that is in this vinyl. And you see there's a bubble right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one more tool here. Okay, so what I've done is I took my backing paper and placed it back onto the back of the vinyl here, because I want to take and remove my transfer tape so that I can work better with the vinyl. So we're going to slowly start working on removing that. Pull down at an angle and work slowly as you're going through. Keep squeegee in hand so that we can work on smoothing out. No need to rush this, take your time. And as you see here, this is part of what I was watching for, because it's going to want to pull from the backing paper. So I'm going to take the squeegee and get it on that backing paper really well. Because this right here is what's going to happen. It's going to pull back from that backing paper. And at the moment, I want it to stay on the backing paper. And I'll start pulling down from the top. Working down slowly. And once I get down to the backing paper, I will take my time so that I can maintain it on the backing paper. Again, kind of working it. Working kind of in angles until I get it down, and I can pull straight down again. Work it a little bit. There's a little bit of a bubble, not much. So it's going to take the squeegee tool and rub right up until we squeeze that little bit of air out behind there. This part right here is the part that I want to work with. And the reason I'm not taking my squeegee tool and working to force that down is because I want to have time to work with it. Alright, we're just taking our time with this. Now here is the part that I'm going to take my time with. I'm going to use this tool, my pick tool, to work out some of these air bubbles. So I'm going to come underneath the vinyl, start working that down. And what I did was, you can barely see it, is I put just a little pinhole right in that piece of vinyl right there. I'm going to come right up underneath it here so I can bleed some of that air out. Now this piece here, because what happened was, is this little piece right here got just a little off center. So I'm going to take a pair of snips, and we're going to snip this right across. I'm going to pull that down,
and blend them together. And I'm going to work out this little bubble right here and a couple of little bitty bubbles right here. Again, the real tiny bubbles you don't have to worry about, because over time, as these are exposed to heat, they will eventually go away. You're going to have little tiny bubbles when you're doing stuff like this, especially when you're working on a cold surface. Just take your time. Like here's a piece here. Just going to put a little hole in it. And there we go. Work that bubble right out. The real tiny ones, not that concerned about. Now, this is the part that I'm going to have to work with slowly. And probably because of the way that it's going on, I will probably end up possibly cutting it to piece it together. I'm not completely sure yet, hoping that I can just work it like this. And I believe that we can. Try not to touch too much of the back of this, but if you have to, it's okay. You don't want to get a lot of the oil from your skin on it. Now here is the tedious part. There's this little star. I am not a fan of working with fine details on signs, simply because of this right here. You run into some minor issues, nothing major, nothing that can't be rectified with a little bit of patience. And if need be, because this is my work truck, on a tailgate, it would have been simpler to remove the tailgate. I'm going to kind of let that one go up over that there. I'm just kind of reworking my design a little bit, how that it was laid out. As I was about to say, on a tailgate, you can remove the tailgate so that you're working with the product laying down. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove this star. I'm going to show you something right here. I'm not happy with that star, and I may tweak the design just a little bit when I do my final setup for the doors. I may actually tweak that design just a little bit. But I'm going to remove the star just because it was such a tedious setup there. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to piece a little bit of this together. So like I say, I am not a fan of really fine detail on signs, simply because, especially if you're going with a really large piece, simply because as you're putting it out, you want to have room to play, have room to get that piece on there. But this is my sign so I can make adjustments to it as I see fit. Now, I'm going to take the backing paper just because I don't want to scratch any of this. I'm going to place it over this and use the squeegee tool to go over it, and there we go. Take feel for any more small bubbles that might be in there. Now, like I said, the small, very tiny bubbles will eventually work their way out. Once it has been exposed to the heat. So with that being said,
that was the joys of doing an install with vinyl that has a lot of small details. And normally I would not do extremely small details, but this was my design for my work truck, and wanted to play around with it just to see how it would go. In hindsight, I would have made a little bit of adjustment, possibly left those stars solid rather than to be open. I may go back and do a little bit of tweak on that in the design before I work on the doors and look at doing it a different way. But let's turn the camera around and take a look at the final product. All right, and as I said, you know, this is a work truck, so there are some minor imperfections on here, but let's take a look here. I'm not seeing many little air bubbles in there. Maybe a very, very faint one here and there, nothing that won't work out. But now I want to show you the tweaking that I had to do. This piece here ended up getting off centered as I was putting it down, and that happens sometimes, and that's something you can work with. So basically just split it right there, and then brought it back together. You really can't even tell. And then this piece here where the star was at, I didn't like the way the star was going down. It wasn't lining up the way that it should. And one thing, we're also working with a slightly curved surface. So this isn't a completely flat surface. This tailgate has a slight curve to it, which threw off laying the vinyl down. So here you can see where I ended up splicing it right here, which worked out fine. It's not a big deal. And continue on around. So there we go.